Righty.
I think we can get started, Paula, right?
Yes, go for it.
Welcome, everyone. We're so excited that you're joining us. We thank you for registering for our program today. CUP's mission is to inspire, elevate, and empower the next generation of diverse business and civic leaders. And we're so thrilled to have Paula joining us today. Paula is a member of the CUP family. She was a 2015 CUP Fellow and serves on the leadership board. And this CUP Conversation series presents virtual thought leadership webinars and interviews who are featuring individuals who will share strategies and concepts and tools to educate our CUP community. And today is our inaugural CUP Conversation Speaker Series. Next week, on April 16th at 2:30, we'll have Mark Morial, the president of the National Urban League, who will be discussing managing through crisis. And we will start to publish each week the next week's speaker. We are going to ask that everyone keep themselves on mute. Paula will talk for 45 minutes, and that will be followed by a question and answer session. This will be recorded, and we will post the video on our website or send it out. We welcome Paula.
Hello, everyone. I'm super happy to be with you all virtually because just keep it real, I'm having a hard time being by myself. I am an extrovert. And so while I have my family here with me, thankfully, I love seeing other people's faces, and I'm happy to connect with the CUP family. So let's get started. So this is me. I have this on the screen because I love this picture of myself. That's good enough reason. As Melissa said, I am a 2015 CUP Fellow and on the board, and I also have my own Inclusion Strategy Solutions is my business, and we do diversity consulting, EEO consulting, coaching, and a myriad of other things to support organizations through their diversity, equity, and inclusion journey. I do professional development as well, making sure that folks are well equipped for the soft skills and the things that they need in order to essentially elevate and navigate the workplace. And so I'm very happy to be here with you. You see I have my social media tags. Encourage you all to take pictures of this. I'll smile as much as I can. Share on social using the hashtag CUP Conversations, tagging CUP, tagging me. Let's make sure this is as interactive as possible. I am also going to want to have your feedback. We're going to use that in two different ways. So we're going to be using a tool called menti.com. And so you can use another window if you're using your phone to go to this website, menti.com, and type in that code. And I'm going to ask you a few questions and we'll get some information, and you'll be able to see the live feedback as we go through this. Because rather than think of this as me saying, here's all the things that you have to do, it really is, I want to be responsive to some of the challenges that you might have, hear some of the suggestions that you also have as we go through this. So think of it as a big group coaching versus me sort of keynoting about what to do while you're working from home. Before we even get into this, I just want to say, like, these are challenging times that we're in right now. We have never been in a place such as this one. So even if you have had the opportunity to work from home before, this is different. None of us, as far as I know, have worked from home during a pandemic, during crisis, and one that's ongoing. And managing all of the things that come with that is what we want to talk about today. And so because I love branding, all of you who know me know that, I decided to navigate this using the word corona, because branding. So communication, O is own your space, R is remember you are working, the next O is only do the task at hand, notify stakeholders, and anticipate distractions. So I'll say this to you, they're in this order because I needed it to fit into the corona framework. However, I probably would have started with anticipate distractions if I could have my druthers, because that's what we can rely on. So those of you who have other people at home, right now my family is waiting for delivery from, getting food. All kinds of things happen. So we'll manage that and navigate that. And if it's happening for you, you're on mute, I won't be able to tell, but feel free to wave at me or give me a raise the roof if you want to connect. I'm willing to do that with you. So I want to know first, what industry do you work in? And so we're going to go to the first share and answer the question on the screen. Again, you're going to go to, you're just joining, I'm going to type this in here too, menti.com, and you're going to use the code 947356. I tried to get as many of the things I thought that we would be hitting. If you don't fit into any of these, go ahead and hit other. But again, we've got about 30 folks on the line and 6 votes. We definitely want to make sure this year we're voting for everything we can. So please, I'll wait for some of your votes to come in. We had a lot of my peeps, my lawyer folks, some nonprofit. So again, if you haven't had a chance to, you're going to go to menti.com. We're going to be using this throughout the presentation, so I want you to get this now. And I'll be asking you, like I said, a few questions. Okay. We have some ominous others. So right now, the majority of us are in law, but if you are on the line and have not yet voted, I encourage you to do so. I think it's important for me to know sort of who the audience is for this, and to be able to answer and provide context according to who is on the line. And so we've got some folks in finance stepping up, some more others. If you're in the chat and you'd like to type and say, "Hi, Nancy, thank you for that." I want you to use the tool, but if you are an other and you want to just shout out what industry you're in the chat, I'm welcoming that as well, just to get any more clarification about if we have folks that we just totally missed. But most of us here are within the law. We got some folks in government, finance, nonprofit, media, entertainment. So yeah, for those of you who are saying other, okay, so in tax, thank you. Let's hear where the others are from. Nonprofit. So the folks who are in the chat, I want you to use this tool to make sure we're getting consulting. Awesome. Thank you. Good. Perfect. Thank you for sharing that. Great. So we've got some folks who are in beauty. Need you now, ma'am. We need you. And licensed real estate. Yes. Thank you so much. Data service. Great. People on the line don't have the site address or access code. Thank you. So, okay, if you are on the phone and not actually seeing what we're doing, I just wanted to let you know that we are using a tool called menti.com. And when you get to menti.com, it's MENTI, and the code you will use is 947356. But I also do encourage you, if you can, to access this on your phone so you can see the slides and see other people's faces, especially because we are in the times when we're not interacting with each other. This gives opportunity for us to be able to at least see each other virtually. All right, so we've got some context there. Great, thank you very much. So with all of you, no matter what you're in, even if you had the opportunity to work from home previous to this, it is now shifted. It's very different. The people in who you're interacting with are also at home. They also have distractions. They're also trying to figure out life as we now know it, which none of us really know what the new normal is going to be. And so we want to talk through some best practices on working from home. And I also want to hear if you have recommendations or suggestions as well. But before that, let's get to the next question. So in 3 words or phrases, using this tool, again, we're still on menti.com. How do you feel about working from home? How does this make you feel right now? Let's see what we get. So I'll just say it again. For the folks who are on the line, we're using menti.com to respond, MENTI.com. And again, the code is 947356. It is anonymous. All the feedback is anonymous, so feel free to write whatever you feel like it. There is a profanity filter. I'm watching you. Okay. So we have safe as a big word. The bigger words that come up are ones that are repeated more. Unproductive, creative, boundaryless, uncertain, grateful, overwhelmed, underproductive, lacking resources, relaxing, distant, Exhausting, exhausted, ambitious, stuck. Love it. Yes, motivated, unorganized. So listen, the reason why I even start bored, I start with this and keep going, keep adding more things in as you think of them, is that if I asked you the same thing tomorrow, we'd get a different word cloud. What I find to be very challenging about working from home, particularly in this time of COVID-19, is that the way I feel, the way others feel shifts every single day, right? It's not anything that is consistent. And because of that inconsistency, it makes us inconsistent in terms of our work product and our feeling motivated and our wanting to be productive. There's so many articles that have been shared, and I'll try to find some and share them with you, that are talking about the want to feel productive at this time is really one that is out of the bounds that we should be thinking. We should want to sort of survive, right? And thriving is at that other level of what we want. And yet our bosses are like, hey, you still have this to-do list. We still want you to do these things. And there's a stress that comes with that. So let's see some other things that came in. I feel whack. That's right. Somebody's keeping it really real. Tired, scary, unorganized again, anxious, stressed, challenging, grateful, stuck, focused, underproductive, right? Listen, thank you for sharing all these things. I'm gonna get a little more granular with you on the next question. So for you, and this is really where I wanna hear some of the things that, why did you come on this webinar? Like what are you looking for? What are the challenges that you have right now as you're working from home that you would like some feedback and help with? Because again, in my coaching capacity, I love to be responsive to your questions. So this is different than a word cloud that was created just now. These are short statements. Think of this as little as tweets. This is not time to say like when I was a young child, that's not the time for this. You want short comments here. But tell me what's challenging for you. And again, it's anonymous. So you can be as frank as you want. And again, that filter is on, so we're not gonna see any profanity you might put on there, but I'm sure if you're like some of us, you might want to. So understood. Staying engaged, keeping my business going when I can't produce desired results, keeping my team motivated and connected, job security, yes. Creating a stage from the virtual perspective, supporting the team on a personal level and holding accountability for the team's productivity. Staying engaged, job security, not seeing coworkers in person or human interaction. Staying productive and disciplined, not seeing my family and friends. The expectation from the time you wake up until you go to bed. Yeah. Oops. Uh-oh. I wanted to, let's see, move you out of here. Present. Okay. What else? Oops. No, sorry. Okay. So I love working from home, but due to COVID-19, it's hard to focus because of the news, sharing the space with kids, feeling at ease with the work from home setup, missing in-person, interaction with stakeholders and staff. So this is, I mean, everything you're saying is all of the things and why I decided I wanted to write this article that I based this presentation on, and also to have some interaction in terms of the webinar platform, just because like all of this is the reality we're living in. It really is. Making sure to carve out personal time. So we're gonna talk about pretty much all of this. And if there's something that I go through that's not covered, you can ask it using the chat, but let's get started. So I'm gonna switch back and you can continue to write some other things. I'll come back to the slide in a minute. I'm gonna go back to the PowerPoint. All right. Okay. So this might resonate for some of you. So it's 9 o'clock in the morning, you're up, you're ready to go, and then you're super comfortable on your couch and knocked out at sleeping. One of the ways that I stay engaged and I keep my energy up is I love memes. I love memes. And one of the things that's been happening right now while people are home is the creativity level for some people has escalated big time. And so there's a lot of memes. And so my first ask is, if you have a meme that you think that would be funny that you want to share with me, please feel free to tag me in that and share it with me to help me keeping my energy up just generally. It's helpful for us to laugh as much as we can in these times that are not ones that we can laugh at. All right. So the first C is communication. Nothing happens without communication. I can't communicate by myself. I could sit here and have a webinar and talk to myself, but it would not be communication in terms of me knowing if you are understanding what I'm saying, if what my intentions are were being relayed. And so communication is a big deal. And when we're not with each other, there can be so many more miscommunications about what happens. And so as a diversity, equity, inclusion professional, what I find is there's a lot more instances. I'm hearing a lot more people talking about microaggressions and challenges that are happening now because you aren't able to see context, because people you're not seeing sometimes faces and intention and being able to kind of download with other folks in the same way as you would if you were with someone. And so talk about this. It is imperative for you to maintain contact with the folks who you work with. And some of you don't, have an opportunity not to. Like I saw one of the comments was, I'm zoomed out, I'm over zoomed, right? So, but you should. And if you have not had a set meeting with your manager or your team before this, and I'm hearing from a lot of people that they didn't, you must incorporate this. The only way that you can really stay engaged with folks and to make sure that you are adhering and figuring out the needs of the people who are on your team and with you is for you to make sure that you are connecting with them. And so number one, you want to make sure that your manager and you, if you're not working on your own or you're not the manager, are having regular meetings. So this means a meeting in which you're checking in, you're saying to them, hey, this is what's going on. We're going to go a little more deeper into this. But what I'm hearing, especially now if people are home, is that there's a feeling of disconnect, right? And so having that regular meeting at least gets you that touch point. Some of you are over meeting. You want to really reflect on it. Should you have any agency? Does this need to be a meeting? What we're learning now too is that email is really effective in communicating things. And sometimes you don't need to have that meeting. And if you're not one of the people who likes to Zoom and to be on camera, it can be challenging. But speaking on being on camera and phone calls and videos, I saw this on Twitter and I loved it. So if you want to have something to do one day when you're on a conference call, you might want to try this out, print this out and try this out. You're going to see what you see. I mean, this resonates a lot. Like, can everybody go on mute? All the time. I literally had a full 10-minute conversation with myself the other day thinking I was talking to people. Patricia, I will definitely email it to everyone. Thinking I was talking to folks and I was gesticulating and doing all these things and folks were like, hey, I can't hear you. And I was like, I definitely just said the Gettysburg Address. I definitely just said something that was epic and you did not hear it. Now I have to try to reincorporate that and it's not going to be as good. But as much as we can gamify and try to have some fun, but conference calls and video calls can be challenging these days. And particularly, I think, these days, you're noticing, I'm thinking of this from a diversity perspective, you're noticing some of the challenges that exist with taking people to platforms that they are not used to engaging on, right? Particularly folks, and this is not even, a lot of people are talking about generationally. It's not. Some folks just don't use these platforms. They don't know how to use some of these tools. And so you have, poor Jennifer who goes to use the restroom. If you guys have seen the thing on social media that went viral, the woman who went to use the restroom when she was on Zoom and forgot that she was on camera. Oops. We're going to not do that. Like that, I recommend not doing. Most laptops now have some kind of screen that will enable you to stop your video. So I can just do this now, like you won't see me, but then you see me. But my favorite thing, and I love this about the Zoom platform, is being able to change your background. So working from home has the assumption that you want people to see inside your house, right? And for some of us, the answer is no, we don't. And so there's on Zoom, tons of ways that you can change your background. So I'll show you the one I've been using the most lately. That's Tiger King. So I've been using that. That's for my fun Zooms. Those are for the Zoom happy hours. I also like to pretend I'm on the beach. So here's a little Barbados for you. And when I need to be businessy, I will use this one where you can see all my social and my business. Because we were talking about being at home, I wanted to show you my home. So here's where I sit and work every day. But you shouldn't feel obligated to kind of have people see your space if you're using a tool like this one where you cannot have that happen. So keep going. All right. So let me ask you another question on Menti. So where are we? Do you have a dedicated workspace at home? So we're going to the next question on Mentee. And you should see it on your screen. If you're on the line and not seeing the screen, the code for menti.com, the code is 947356. So if you joined us a little bit later, and then you can participate in our interactive responses. So most of the folks who are answering are saying, yes, I do have a dedicated workspace, but I can tell you in the almost, month that we've been inside, I have seen folks using their kitchen cabinets, so emptying out their cabinets and standing there as their working desk. I have seen people in their bedrooms. I have seen folks on their stoops outside in their backyard. So it's good that if you have a space or you've created a space that makes it one in which you can work, because mindset of work is an important one, which we're going to get into in a minute. Well, going back to communication, email. So we get a ton of email when we're not in quarantine, right? And if you're like me and you have 5 different inboxes, it may become very overwhelming. And so many folks are emailing things now. I'm going to give you some best practices here. Number one, because people are all experiencing pretty much the same thing, this has never happened before, where everyone is at home. Right? We're all at home except for the folks who are first responders or, folks who are the workers who have to be outside. Most people are at home. And so knowing there's challenges that are associated with that, the first thing I'm going to recommend to you is to be personable, right? So what I tend to do in terms of when I draft an email, I draft, hi, I need this. And then I go back and I go, hi, I hope you're doing well. Hope your family is healthy. Like I add the pleasantries in afterwards because for me, I just want to get to it. But in this time when empathy is such an important muscle for us to be flexing, we have to be more thoughtful about what the person on the other side of that email, what they might be going through at this time, right? We can't assume that people are fine because I think that much more people are not, right, than they are. And during the time that you're emailing them, you could be fine and they might not be. So we want to connect with the humanity and be more empathetic as we can. The other thing is, this is not the time for you to be sending emails that are, biblical tones, right? Nobody wants to go through pages and pages and pages of these emails if that's a choice. So if you are one of those folks who likes to send an email where it's like, hi, I have A, B, C, D, and all these letters, please respond to them. And then you get an email back and it's just one thing responded to, it's because it's overwhelming. So Coach Paula says, and you can tweet this if you like, keep your email short and concise. And if you want to have responses to multiple things, keep the email request to 3 things you're asking for a response from. If you have 6, 7, 8 things saying respond to this, no one's going to do it, or it's going to take a lot longer than you might need. The other thing is you want to keep your subject matter, your subject line pointed to whatever the issue is. So another thing that folks do that is not a best practice is they'll keep on talking about different things using the same subject line. So it's helpful for people to be able to navigate their inbox by you changing the subject line based on the change in subject matter of the email itself. So if you're not doing that already, you should be doing that. Make this easier for yourself and the people on the other side of your communication. There's going to be much more folks with short tempers, much more folks who are not going to give you the grace to think that you had good intentions when you sent something. So knowing that, make it easier for them. Folks are tense, they're anxious. We don't know what's going to happen. All of those things get into us being much more short when it comes to communication and thinking, unfortunately, the worst as opposed to the best about folks. Okay. So social media, my goodness, it's my favorite thing. I love social media. And it's one way that we can connect with each other and kind of cut through some of the noise of our email if you want to be quick. So a lot of people are using social for real-time connection and contact if they don't want to be bogged down in their email, right? So I just need a quick response. Hey, I'm sending you something. And some of the tools that are being used, right, are Slack, WhatsApp, GroupMe. I've had people send me instant messages on LinkedIn, although I turned that off because I didn't like that. So this can help you to stay connected, right? Especially if you're navigating this isolation literally alone, social media is great, but there are detractions for social media as well, right? There's a lot of negativity. There's a lot of bad news that's happening now. So you want to mind yourself and what you need and what boundaries you need to connect to and say, hey, I'm offline on this app, or I'm not going to be responsive here. Communicate to people what you need from them so that they can be helpful to you. that makes it easier for everybody involved. Okay? All right. So, as I mentioned, the O is own your space. So some folks might be, you know, like this the Simpsons cartoon where where it's like, I cannot have people living here. And if you didn't already respond to the share about if you have a dedicated workspace, I'll go back and look and just see where we are with that. So again, still the majority of us, and I see some of you are deciding not to vote, and I'm just looking at you in this and saying, this better be the only time this year you decide not to vote. So anyway, so if you would like to respond right here, again, you can use menti.com just to let me know if you have a dedicated workspace at home. But going back to this, why is it important? Because we're working, right? Because having home be our home base for work right now is a little comfortable. You know, if you are doing this right now because you don't have a dedicated workspace and you are in a bed, in the bedroom, on a comfortable couch, it really does make it that you don't want to be productive, right? It's super comfortable. The television is there. There are snacks that are close. It can be challenging. And so if you can create a dedicated workspace, I suggest that you do. And it is very helpful when you have video calls and you want to have a space here and you don't want to use the background, or the app that you're using doesn't have a background. It makes it look more professional because, and again, going back to the diversity, equity, inclusion piece of this, people do judge folks based on what they see, right? And whether that's good or bad, you know, there have been, if you look on the work from home hashtag on Twitter, people are like, I didn't realize that my employees were rich. or I didn't, or the other way around. Like, so folks are making assumptions about folks' space. So curate it for what you want people to see if you are sharing that, if you're not using a background, okay? So my next question for you that we're gonna go to Menti on is, do you get dressed for work? And I'm sure these are gonna be interesting answers. Hold on, let me get to that and switch the screen for you. Oops, where am I? Okay, here. Why didn't it switch? Uh-oh. Just a minute. Okay, why aren't you seeing that? Gosh, gotta love technology. All right, let me go back here and then go here and let's see if that works now. Still not working. All right, I'm gonna stop sharing for a minute so I can show. Okay, no, I can't do that. Let's see. All right. Thank goodness my other job is tech support. Now, when you go to the screen, you'll be able to see, and I'm gonna try to share so that you can see this, and I'm gonna pull the screen back up so you can see what I'm seeing, hopefully. There we go. Listen, the other thing that you need to do when you work from home is to be super flexible and resilient. So demonstrating that right now. So do you get dressed for work when you work from home? Come on, where's my pajamas, people? Okay, only when I have a video conference, yes. So, you know, my son looked at me and was like, where are you going? I thought we had to stay inside because I'm dressed up. So we're in this new normal of what are we doing? What I'll say to you is this: if you need, and you're like some of the people who responded earlier and said, you know, I'm having a hard time staying motivated and feeling like I'm wanting to work. If you get dressed and sit in that dedicated workspace, it can kind of trigger for you, I'm working now. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more. But for the most of you, you're saying I'm only dressing up when I have a video conference. And I'm imagining that lots of us are having video conferences these days. So hopefully that means that at least from the top up, you're dressed, you know, most days. And again, let's just keep it real. Sometimes we need to be pajama people. It is what it is. Okay, so let's go back to our screen. All right, so I want you to be comfortable. This is not the time where I'm encouraging folks who work in law, finance, and other places where you usually dress up for you to be in suits on your Zoom. I think that that's asking for a lot, unless it's something that you want, but you should at least be business casual, right? So I'm looking at some of you. Some of you are dressed, you know, like, look, like you're going in the office. I don't know what's happening below the screen. I don't want to find out. I'm hoping that everything is fine. But as long as you're comfortable, that makes it better. It helps you to shift your work mode. It makes you think that you're working more. And we have to do that. Because if we're not kind of connecting the way that we need to, it can really get to the point where we don't feel like we're working, and then we also don't feel engaged just generally. And because when we're by ourselves or thinking about what's happening globally, it can make us prone to being sad and perhaps feeling depressed. Dressing the part can kind of snap us out of that sometimes. And again, these are best practices. You know, I want you to do what makes you feel good. So the R in Corona is remember you're working, which kind of shifts right into this piece about, you know, are you dressing up? You need to create a to-do list. So how many of you can just put this in the actual chat, how many of you use a to-do list every day? And I see the questions, I'm gonna respond to those. How many of you use a to-do list? So I have a couple of questions here, or response, thank you. Only from the waist up in the video, top halves. Okay, thank you. I wear different clothes than what I sleep in. I mean, you're doing, you know, that's 2.0, because some people are definitely wearing, they have day-night clothes and night-night clothes, right? Okay, curated work from home, I love that. So dressing for video, okay, the question is, what do you think about dressing for video conference job interviews? So if you are an interviewee, you absolutely have to dress for your interviews. The reason I say this is because, remember, folks are judging you, and in an interview, it's inherently supposed to be judging you. And so you want to dress the way that you would be looking if you were interacting in person. So if that means a suit, again, you're likely not going to be standing in your interview, so you sit and you can wear that suit from the top up or top down. You know what I mean. But not business casual for an interview these days is probably not what I would be doing. For the interviewers, that's a little bit different. I think some interviewers, depending on the industry, are going to say, hey, I'm working from home, you want this job, I'm gonna wear what I want. But you're also being assessed at the same time. And so the person who is wanting the role is also gonna think about whether they want to work with you. And so you putting on your best self can be helpful for them thinking that they wanna be a part of the team as well. So let's see what other folks are saying. Okay, to-do list, I'm hearing most people say this. So I'm gonna give you some free therapy from my therapist. So I do a to-do list every single day. But my therapist on our call yesterday said to me, instead of doing a to-do list every morning like I do, she said, do it the night before. And I was like, why? Stop trying to make me do things. And then she said, doing a to-do list the night before can help you to get yourself in the mind frame of doing work the next day. And it helps you to kind of incorporate for yourself what you're going to get accomplished. And she said, when you do it in the morning, usually people will do it after looking at their email. They'll do it after kind of letting the world kind of get to them. So it can help you to be much more productive if you do it the night before. So that's a recommendation from her. If you have other thoughts about how you do this, feel free to put that again in the chat. But having one is important, and it shouldn't have more than 5 things on it each day. Okay, I'm telling you this, and of what I'm saying to you about the working from home and to-do list piece of this, if you have a to-do list that is 10 things or 20 things long each day, you're setting yourself up for being disappointed, and also setting yourself up for not being able to accomplish the things on there. So you might have a running to-do list of things that you use, that you have just generally that you want, but you have a daily to-do list, and this is a good recommendation, of 5 things. And the first thing should be the biggest thing that you want to get done. So any of you who have read the book, Eat the Frog, the best practice is you do the thing that you don't want to do first. And that way, when you get done with it, it helps to have much more momentum for the day, where the smaller things seem to go by faster because you've gotten that big thing done. A recommendation is using the pick 3 method. Yes, exactly. So not trying to overwhelm yourself with a lot of things. Online to-do lists, there's so many. You could use your Google Doc. You could use, I like to use, what is it called on Google? Google Keep for my to-do list. Anything, as long as you're going to hold yourself accountable to it. What I have found is that writing it down recently has been better for me because it kind of helps with the momentum. I also recommend following your typical work schedule as much as possible. Now, again, obviously we don't have to commute anymore, right? But to the extent that you would have gotten up, gotten dressed, gotten your breakfast, and at a certain time, you should continue to do that. and then maybe use that time that you would be commuting to do something extra or ideate, and then get to the work when you know other people are working. You want to also make sure that all of your gadgets are doing what they're supposed to do. So I saw, and I noticed this, a lot of my coaching clients have mentioned recently that their phones are going to, or the batteries are dying. And I'm like, why is your battery dying? You're at home. But it's because they're really not thinking about it the same way they would as if they were at work. So you want to make sure that you're starting the day ready to go. Electronics are plugged in, your internet is all set, right? What things you need to be productive are there and ready for you. And I want to say a little point about security here. I've been having a lot of conversations about using certain platforms and security. If you're using a tool in which people will have access and you might be sharing a screen, take the time to make sure that you don't have other screens up that might have information on there that could be confidential. Close as many windows as possible so that just in case anything might happen, it doesn't. So yeah, someone's sharing that Zoom drains the battery. So you want to make sure you're plugging things in. These are things that I'm telling you not because you don't know, but because we're thinking about best practice, right? So, and if you have other thoughts about this, let's share. But of all the things that I'm going to say to you, this only do the task at hand is the best one that I want you to think about. Okay, so let's talk about this. Productivity. Are you more or less productive during this time? So I'm going to switch screens. Hopefully it works again. There. What do you think? Are you more or less productive? So we're going back to Menti to respond. Yeah. So we have some yeses. We have, I'm assuming that there's a couple more no's, but the varies is absolutely right. What I'm finding is that each day I've had to take a nap because I feel mentally drained, and I need to kind of have a reset in the middle of the day and then be able to work some more. And so depending on the hour, day, minute, it absolutely varies. If you know for sure that you are the type of worker that you're more productive in the morning generally, or whatever it is for you, you want to capitalize on that. We're going to talk about that in a minute. So there's some studies, and I'm going to share with Melissa, send you there's some Harvard Business Review studies and some other organization studies that say, in general, employees can be much more productive when they work from home. But again, those studies weren't done during a pandemic, right? Those studies weren't done when we're in crisis. And so for those of you who are the people who can engage and who can be productive, thank you. We need you in this world. If you're like majority of people, you're probably it depends on the day, the hour, and what has happened. We have to remember, because of the fact that we're in this crisis, folks are dealing with sometimes personal grief, sometimes familial grief, and sometimes just grief for the world. And if you are an extrovert or if you are an introvert, depending on all of those things, we're still not navigating the way we would normally navigate because these are challenging times. So think about this. I believe in project-based things, is why I'm talking about doing a to-do list, etc. But most of you have to be on meetings with people during the day. Some of you might have, what's the word? Where other people from other countries, international things that you have to do. And so your hours might shift and vary. But you need to be self-reflective about when you tend to be more productive, because that's when I would key into getting some of the things that you are finding harder at this time to do. For example, if you write, the morning tends to be a good productive time. However, I'm talking about this as if no one else is in the home and there's nothing else bothering you, right? I have literally had to be on Zoom calls with my son until 10:30 every single day for his school. So we're going to talk about the distractions, and that's the last one. So while I'm telling you that we can be more productive from home, and I'm telling you to try to set your schedule, I'm also reminding you that multitasking does not work. We think it does. And some people have to multitask, but you're not as efficient as you are when you're only doing, when you're multitasking is when you're doing one task. And that's why I'm going to share with you this next strategy. It is my favorite thing, not just now, but it's definitely working now, but just in general. It's the POMODORO technique. So It is something actually a CUP fellow taught me about years ago, and it is chunking your time in 20-minute work tasks. So you take 20 minutes where you have no interruptions. You don't look at your phone. You don't have, your phone is on silent. You don't have any kind of things popping up on your screens, etc. And you are focusing on only one thing at this time. The good thing about the 20-minute chunk is that usually, again, these days, who knows, 20 minutes is enough time to be offline that if there was an emergency, you're still being responsive if you come back after that 20 minutes. 20 minutes is enough time that for you, it doesn't feel too long, like you're not engaging. And 20 minutes is a great amount of time to be able to be productive, particularly if you are writing or working on something that tends to take a lot of brain power from you. So I'm encouraging you to do this. So this is how it works. You take 20 minutes on that one task and then you stop. You take a 10-minute break. That's when you use the restroom. That's when you check your phone. That's when you talk to the people who are in your home, whatever it is for those 20 minutes. I'm telling you, it hands down, if you start to incorporate this, it's amazing, particularly even when you're trying to be creative, not just doing work. It's a really helpful thing. And then you go back to the same task or you start on a new task. So if you're like me and you have ADHD, welcome. It's great for me because I don't like to work on the same task for long amounts of time. I like to kind of have my mind do what it does normally and look at a lot of things. And so 20 minutes on, 10 minutes off, onto a new thing. And then I might go back to that original thing, but I'm always connecting my Pomodoro to what I do for the day. Those 3 to 5 things that are on my to-do list is what I'm looking at, okay? And then you rinse, wash, and repeat. What I would like you to do, this is your homework, is I'm hoping you're going to incorporate it. Go ahead and tag me on social. Tell me, Paula, I'm doing this. I did this. Again, not during your 20-minute time, because again, you're not looking at social then. But tell me if it's working for you. And I'd love for you to share in the chat if you have other suggestions. How do you stay productive during this time? Is there techniques that you use in order to do so that we might be able to incorporate ourselves? Because I don't at all think that I have all the answers. I just have some. And I'm very much open to your best practices too. But I'm telling you, especially because the world is kind of doing all these things these days, try to incorporate it, see what happens. So the N in Corona is notify stakeholders. So my partner and I, we deal with a lot of leaders and managers. And one of the things that we're hearing a lot is that managers, instead of what we say is the best practice for management is checking in, having those one-on-one meetings, managers are much more nervous about their folks being less productive. And so that switches that micromanaging tool in them. And that's not the best thing these days because it then helps more people be anxious. So rather than, well, I shouldn't say rather, if you have someone who you're accountable to and the way that they are managing under this, the COVID-19, and it is to micromanage and to sort of try to gotcha with some calls that are unanticipated or anything like that, that it might be triggering you, you need to manage up. You need to manage up anyway, but you need to manage up especially to be responsive to that. Number one is communicating what you need and what's going on for you right at this point. So that is saying, hey, I understand that you called me the other day, I wasn't there if it happened. Look, it's better for us to set a phone call so that I can be ready for whatever we're going to talk about. You calling me, this doesn't work for me in this time, particularly because I have X, Y, and Z things going on, right? We want to have folks kick in that empathy a little bit more as if they can. But also in terms of managing up, you want to think before this, assuming that you're not a new employee, right? What did your manager tend to do? Folks can either really, really engage and be good at this now, or they can go to the fully opposite and start doing things that they didn't do before. And maybe in those one-on-ones, a question, how would you like me to check in with you? What is it that you need from me at this time? Can be helpful in terms of your conversation with them, right? And then getting it to them before that. Because if you're like me and you're triggered by people asking you for something that you know you owe them already, then getting it to them or saying I'm working on it before they even ask can be helpful for you. But we're thinking about keeping our brain space in one in which we are not being triggered any more than what's already happening, right? That work from home, unusual times is different than it's different, right? So we got to make sure that we are responding to that, okay? So another thing I recommend, again, if you want to, is sending a brief end-of-day synopsis. if you have a manager who's not checking in, but you know they're thinking about this, you know, lots of places are contemplating how they're going to navigate this new normal, are reflecting on who is productive on their teams, where they can trim the fat, if they're going to furlough, if they might lay off, and you're wanting to think, how can I build my brand and show my productivity and show that I'm still value adding? I really love this strategy of an end of day synopsis. This is not where you're saying, and then I did this, and then I did this. This is like 3 bullet points. I worked on the following things today because I know these things are due, right? 3 things. You don't want to make this a heavy piece for you, but you do want to be productive and show that you are doing the best that you can, right? And if you don't feel like daily is something that's a good cadence for you, do it twice a week, do it 3 times a week. But communicate what the expectation is going to be that you're going to do with your manager so that they can hold you accountable to that, right? When you think about how you delegate, if you are a manager, you set a standard. So you say, this is the task, this is how I want it done, this is the time frame that I want it in, and you need to communicate anything else that's going to be a challenge there. If you're managing up, you just do the same thing. This is the task, this is how I understand that you want it. I plan on getting it to you by this day. You said you wanted a 12-point font with 1-inch margins. Cool, I'm going to get it to you that way. That helps you to stay as if you're owning the pieces and to help them to feel as if they're being heard. Okay, so if you have other recommendations on how you are connecting here, I know that many of you who are on the line are managers and also are, have a boss too. And so if you have suggestions that are helping you to navigate during this time, it's good. I have another friend of mine who says that she tells her boss every day, this is the one thing I'm going to get done. She doesn't say I'm going to get 4 or 5 things done. She says 1. And that way she can be held accountable to that one thing. And if it's just that one thing she gets done, she gets it done. Now, again, you may not have that flexibility in your organization culture may not, sort of be flexible in that way. Or you may not feel like you need to communicate that, but do what you need to do in order to do this thing where you're notifying stakeholders. And stakeholders can also be not just your manager or your boss, but can be the people on your team, right? So if you're doing a collaborative project, you might want to say to them, hey, I'm doing this piece. I plan on having this time on this date. Let me know when yours is going to be done. So you're also holding everybody else accountable. And the best thing you can say these days is, and if there's a delay or you don't think you can get it done, please let me know. Right? Because that way everybody is then doing that first C, which is communicating. All right. So again, as I mentioned, if I was going to do this in the order I wanted to, it would be, I would talk about this first. The one thing that I have held true is that every single day I will be distracted from the work that I want to get done. So I'm asking you for your next question on Mentee is, what type of distractions are happening for you? I'll just go ahead and have some tea while you're doing that. Let's see, what are you saying? TV shows, yes. Oh, you saw I had Tiger King. I mean, that was my productivity. Snacks. Oh, good. I have a great idea for snacks for you that someone shared with me the other day. So I'll just respond to them as you're saying this. So number 1 is the snacking. So a friend of mine recommended this. She has snack boxes for her family. So there's 5 boxes that she has 3 kids and her spouse, and they put the snacks that they're going to eat for the day in there at the beginning of the day. And after those snacks are done, they can't have any more snacks. And she has a box too, and each of them does. And that way they are managing their calories. And she says that her kids are not asking her for snacks during conference calls in the same way. She sets them up with their snack box, and it helps them to, sort of own what's happening. So that's an idea that I really loved. Instagram and text. So one of the things that you can do to modify some of the distractions of Instagram and text is there are apps that can help you to track your time that you're using on social, and they tend to help you have a little bit more window into how much time and I won't call it wasting, because sometimes you're on social and you're doing research, but how much time you're spending, and that might help you to lessen it. The other thing is, why don't you say to yourself, hey, I'm going to give myself in those 10-minute breaks when you're doing your Pomodoro, I'm going to give myself, this is going to be an IG break, rather than constant sort of having yourself check it. Don't have it that it gives you it makes the noise. Take off the notifications and only check it when you need to. That can help you to spend less time on there. The other thing is my kids, my husband, and my fatigue. So let's talk about that in general. So I don't know how old your kids are, but yeah, absolutely. One of the things that you can do right now is to say to your kids, if you're, mommy or daddy is working at this time, I only need this time for us not to engage. It can't be 9 to 5, you can't talk, because your kids are not going to listen to you anyway, right? But if you are, for example, doing a webinar, you can say to them, do not come down here or else. But the husband piece, I'm hoping you're communicating a little bit easier with them. But what I'm hearing a lot is spouses who are both working from home and they both have calls or things they have to be on at the same time, and someone has to take care of the kids, particularly if you have little kids. And that can just mean trying to coordinate your calendar so that doesn't happen in the same way, if you can. And if not, my best recommendation when you start any kind of call is to say to them, hey, guess who's home? Everybody. And because everybody is home, please know that there may be some distractions, and I'm going to try to manage them as much as I can. But listen, the thing that everybody's dealing with is what's on the screen, right? Remember when this happened a few years back, when this man was doing this very sort of important call and his kids came running on in there being like, hey, guess what? I don't care. And kids don't care. Kids are like, look, I have to be home. I have homework to do, and you're my parent. And we're not educators, we are parents, and we are working, and everybody is having some kind of distraction. I have folks who have had pets walk across the screen when they are on their Zoom, and that's okay, right? We need to exercise empathy as much as we can these days. We're all struggling. So if you can, identify when you are going to be the least distracted and try to set times then for you to do things, you should. So this would be, I like to get up before my kids so I can do that to-do list, so I can, if I'm going to work out on those shocking days in which it happens, then that's a helpful thing for me to do it when they're not around. But even if you try your best, they may not be. I also say to my kids and my husband, I say, hey, I'm going to be on this webinar. It'd be really great if you did not disturb me. They may listen, they may not. I can't control whether the phone might ring or the doorbell might ring, etc. But you do your best. At the start of every conference call, you just say, reminder, hey, I've got folks here. I might be disrupted, or might be interrupted. I'm going to put myself on mute when I'm not speaking, right? You use those best practices and you say to folks, hey, we're all in this together. I have seen people's spouses in some interesting predicaments in the back of our Zooms. And you know what? It is what it is. We can't control people the way we might want to. And trust we do. All right, let's see what else you said. Exhaustion. As I mentioned, I think one of the ways, human beings, we have fight and we have flight. And these days, we can't fly anywhere, literally, and we can't find anybody either except for the people who live with us. And so the way our bodies react is we tend to sleep. We want to sleep in order to take care of ourselves. And so I'm not against at all you deciding that you need to nap, right? It can help with anxiety. It can help you to be more refreshed. Someone's saying you're distracted by sirens. What we're realizing is that we're hearing much more sirens and much louder, right? Because the streets are not taken up with the other noise of people. So that's hard. I like it at 7 o'clock in New York where everybody's cheering for the first responders. That's great. But other than that, it is really loud when you hear this. I'm distracted by constant cleaning. Listen, can you come over? I mean, I know we're not supposed to be, but anyway, the point is we are not distracted by constant cleaning over here. Perhaps we should be. Homeschooling. What I want you to hear is you're not homeschooling. Unless you're an actual educator in homeschooling, you're not. You are home parenting while your kids are at school at home. And that's a very different way of looking at it than homeschooling. You are managing the way that you can. I told all of my kid teachers, and I recommend you do the same thing. We are going to try our best to do the things that you're asking of us, because you have to remember your kids are also experiencing the trauma and the anxiety of all of this too. And what you don't want if you have, kids at home is for them to feel that anxiety the same way you are. And so, don't do that. If you can help it, I would recommend that you not, because it's just too hard for all of us. Okay, so my next thing is, let's end this on a positive note. What are the 3 favorite things you have about working from home? So in 3 words or phrases, what do you love about working from home? And I can tell you, yesterday, my husband said to me, I love that we get to spend more time together. And then he, under his breath, was like, not that we have a choice. So it is a good thing. And then, there's a lot of happy things that are in this. And so, right, not commuting. We're actually doing a good thing for the earth while the earth is dealing with all of the things that is happening right now. Yes, sleeping in. You can literally turn over and start working. Pants without buttons. Come on, sweatpants crew. Yes. Flexibility. Saving money. Alcohol. That's the next webinar, or the one after that. My dog. Yes. Although I would imagine that pets are probably like, are you guys going to leave at some point? Right? I'm used to being here by myself. My TV. Freedom. Yes. Cleaning. Spring cleaning. A recommendation, again, if you're not working out, I want to just kind of end with this because I don't see, I'm going to check to see if there's any questions here, but is making sure that you're moving, right? Yoga, there's so many sort of free, everybody who can work out is working out on Facebook and Instagram Live and on YouTube. If you're not moving from your space, try doing that. If you want to try standing up and working, do that as well. If you have recommendations that I'm not talking about, please share it in the chat. If there's things or links or things that you're loving, Billy Blanks, who I used to love from the 90s, he is now gone back online and doing stuff to exercise. Meditation. Here in New York, we have Headspace has partnered with New York State. And so if you go to headspace.com/NY, there's free meditation, free breathing for those of you who are experiencing anxiety. You should use that. And for those of you who are next level and really productive, I'm imagining you want to take this time to build a skill or to amplify a skill that you have. And you can do that. LinkedIn Learning. You can use, there's lots of online training. Like I love the University of YouTube, right? Go on there and figure out something that you don't know how to do. I learned the other day how to put on eyelashes. You're welcome, right? So do those things. And then don't forget the connecting piece of all of this. Don't isolate, especially if you're by yourself. Please, please, please do things like this where you're hearing somebody's voice, where you are seeing other people, because the danger in this is if we're disconnecting from each other. And I don't want us to do that. Working from home, we can be productive as we want. It will change day by day. But what we do want to remember and reflect on is that we are human beings, and human beings need other human beings. And this is probably the hardest piece of all of this. Comfortable clothes, not being overbooked, saving gas money, yes, no, using more technology, not on the MTA, all of those things. All right, let me just go back to my final points. Okay, so here, don't forget, okay, you are on, are you seeing, I'm gonna make sure you're seeing my screen. There you go. You are like a plant. You need to drink water. You need to get sunlight, right? You want to make sure that you're taking care of yourself. So all the things I just talked about. My favorite thing these days has been Netflix Party. So there's an add-on on Zoom, or not, sorry, on Zoom, on Chrome that you can use to watch your Netflix shows with other people. It's called Netflix Party. So stay connected. It's really, really important. And if you have, I know we are at time, but let me see if there's any questions that you have on here. I'm happy to stay on for a couple more minutes if you have any questions. So if there are questions that I didn't respond to and you have questions right now I can help with you with, please ask them here. Someone sent me a side note about what lipstick I'm wearing. Let me see, I will tell you that right now. I am wearing, it's called Chateau M by MAC. All right. I'm not seeing any questions coming through on the chat. I want to remind you that we're going to use this communication, owning your space. Remember, you're working, do the task at hand, notify stakeholders, and anticipate distractions. I want to just take one more question. If you have anything else that you're interested in hearing about via webinar, let us know. We are going to be sending out a, so we can get your feedback, but, you know, ask anything here. Tips to be convincing on Zoom and make a good presentation. So my biggest tip for Zoom is to smile. What people aren't seeing right now is people connecting. Like I tested with my husband where I had to look, because I tend to look down when I'm doing stuff on the computer. I have it so my laptop is lifted so I'm eye to eye with you and I'm looking at you as if I'm in the same room with you, right? And smile and look and kind of give in the same way that you would want to be received in the space. Also dressing up. Having your notes on the side of the screen so you're not kind of looking over here is a helpful one. I just recently did this. I got a new screen on a dual screen so I can see two things at one time. You know, if someone's not on mute, I'm gonna encourage you to get on mute if you're not, but the encouragement here is to just kind of remember that we're all human beings at this time while we're working from home. So please do share your topics. We'll keep that slide open for a little bit, but again, we're going to send you a evaluation after this as well. And I want you to stay connected. So we want to make sure, if you're not already connected with CUP, we encourage you to do so. We want you to join our mailing list, which you'll probably be on from now on anyway. I live on social media, I love it. So if you're not connected on LinkedIn, please do. I'd love for you to tweet about the webinar and tweeting CUP and using CUP conversations and staying connected. And as Melissa said earlier, there will be another announcement about our next CUP conversation, which will be featuring Mark Morial with the National Urban League, talking about navigating crisis these days. And so with that, I will say to you, since I don't see any other questions, I will say thank you for spending an hour with me. I miss all of you people who are peopling. And let's stay connected. And I hope the best for all of you and your families, and stay healthy at this time. Bye.
Thank you, Paula.
Bye-bye. All right. See ya.